So thank you for being here today for June's Green Room 2019 Trends in Luxury. I've been following trends closely over the past few months because I feel like they are just coming from everywhere. And I would love to hear what you're seeing and what you're hearing as well. And then I'll share with you what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing also, because I think that sometimes when we're kind of buried into the operation, suddenly something happens and a guest is in our face and they say something like, is the room a smart room? And we look at them and we go, what are you even talking about? I don't even understand. What is a smart room of which you speak? And why should I care about it? So I think it's good for us to get ahead of our guests for that. I also think it's good for us to be thinking about how some of these trends do start to shape the hospitality that we're providing. So I'm very specific here with our trends too, and I'm focusing more on the luxury space because most of you are working and serving guests in that luxury space. So you'll find that I handpicked a few that I thought were more relevant for you. So for those of you that are here with us already, what are you seeing right now? What are some trends that you're already picking up on that you're curious about, or things that you've noticed recently? Anything in particular? Please introduce yourself and say hello. Anyone? You're welcome to text chat. I don't want to put anybody on this. Oh, go ahead.
We're trying to think about it. I'm noticing, I don't really know if it's like a luxury trend, but I noticed a much shorter booking window in general, where it used to be, winter was a much longer booking window. We're seeing much shorter booking windows.
Okay, good. Are you noticing shorter stays or longer stays, or a mix of both, or a shift?
Mix of both for us. We generally have a 2-night minimum year round, so we are getting longer stays though, as long-term reservations and things like that.
Okay. And we're going to be seeing some more of those with particular market segments. And for those of you in the vacation rental space, we'll see how things are evolving in that space as well. So hopefully I'll be able to expand on some of that and tell you where that's going and get you thinking a little bit about what those types of guests are expecting too. So without further ado, I want to just start right into it. I attended a conference back in December that got me thinking more about trends. So I've been adding to it, thinking about it, kicking it off, validating since. And a lot of these are happening and not really changing too much. So let's get into it. Culture push. I'm seeing this a lot. And this is not just company specific, it's also becoming quite property specific. Guests are really looking to have a connection with your resort, with your property, with what you are all about. So gone are the days of just heads in beds. There has to be some sort of a identification with your brand. I need to be able to connect to you in some way. So I'm looking for purpose beyond the stay. I'm looking for more of a transformative travel experience. And this starts to then change how we start seeing guests experiencing us. So things like nomadic sabbaticals for families are becoming a thing now. While most families just struggle with avoiding late pickup fees at nurseries. And I mean, even today, I got a text from my son saying, "Mom, are you picking me up from camp?" Because I forgot to pick him up from camp. The vacation experience that these families are having is very different. So we're starting to see more families having longer types of vacation experiences, getting back to that several month long sabbatical, so to speak. So we're seeing, Cass, to your point, more people that are really embracing the flexibility that their jobs give. We're seeing that we're more homeschooling that's happening than what we saw even 4 years ago. That helps to create more freedom in how people travel and the flexibility that provides. And that also helps to integrate different types of vacation experiences. So the culture push that we're seeing is starting to evolve into lots of different types of travel. It's also starting to evolve into how exclusive home rentals occur. A lot of you are in that vacation rental space, so you're not a stranger to this. This will become more and more of a thing, and we're going to see more players in this game. So if this is a game that you already play, you're going to see more brands getting involved in this, and maybe brands that you never thought were going to get involved in exclusive home rental getting involved. So we're seeing golf resorts now that are buying the homes on the golf courses and those are becoming now part of the resort experience, unlike what we've seen before. Same thing with spa resorts. So they're getting in on that game because there's big money there. They cater to that executive retreat type of a guest. So we're seeing a different type of a travel segment there that's evolving, but with it comes a larger command for an experience that goes with that as well. We're seeing wellness that's more integrated into destinations. So we're seeing more guests that are asking for experiences that fall within that type of a vein. More recommendations are required. More CBD treatments are getting integrated into spa services. I was just at the Waldorf Astoria, and they have an entire CBD line of spa treatments, and they sell a lot of CBD products for their anti-inflammatory properties. So it's now with Illinois passing legalization of marijuana, it's becoming so much, now the 11th state, it's becoming so much more mainstream to be seeing that. We also see the culture push coming in the form of emotional brand standards. And I'm going to get into that in a deeper level because I think it's so relevant for all of you and how you can really make an impact despite what the hottest new trend is. And there are a lot of things that maybe you won't jump on the wagon to do, but there are things that you can affect as they relate to emotional brand standards that I think you can. So high tech and high touch are still hot topics. I think you might remember a few months ago, we did an entire green room just on that, and how that's showing up is in new ways where, ironically, we're seeing a lot of travelers that are leaving social media behind. And they don't want photos in the home. They want privacy to be the new luxury. We're seeing actually an uptick in call center volume because the millennials are embracing the idea that personalization comes from that human interaction. So while we saw maybe a bit of a step away from human interaction, the trend is starting to reverse now, where it's coming back, but it's coming back in a different way, where I still want the same access, I still want the same ability, the flexibility that technology provides, but I want a human being that's just as fast. So it means that the phone doesn't ring for 2 hours. The queue for me to get to a human being has to be shortened. So if it takes already 30 seconds for me to get to a human being, it's got to be shrunk to 5 to 10 seconds. So these are the kinds of things that our guests are now starting to look for. We're going to start seeing biometrics becoming more and more of a trend, more and more of an expectation, which means people are going to start feeling like they don't have to travel as much with their documents anymore. Their eyeball and their fingerprint are all they really need. Bleisure. So more families on business allows more of those sabbatical trips to happen, allows for exclusive home rental to happen more. We're right in the thick of these right now, and this will continue to grow. More families coming on business trips with the dad, with the mom that's on the conference. As we see more of that, there's more of a demand to not be so segmented in how we look at a business traveler. A business traveler is not wholly here on business anymore, and that has to be catered to as such. It's just good business in general anyway, but I think it's going to become more and more of a trend. With this idea of culture push, also comes sense of place. With the sense of place comes a stronger desire to see more interesting local restaurants, more interesting food and beverage options that are regional and specific. So gone are the days of the burger and fry joint that everybody has, or the microbrewery, that the 17th microbrewery. We're looking at things that are very specific. So the place that only specializes in banh mi, because that there's a very specific neighborhood that has a Vietnamese bent to it. Customized regional decor and furnishings in residences, in rooms. So we're talking artwork and sculptures and wood and lighting. All of those things are far more regional than we've ever seen in the past. And that's lending itself to being more and more attractive destination and more immersion into area. So for those of you that have to appeal to the greater homeowner collective, I think that's important when you're talking with them about how to upgrade, what will be important. I think you want to be looking at how they're integrating the regional flair, to the extent that there is regional flair. Colin Cowie, who's a famous celebrity, talks about what he calls hospitainment. And hospitainment means that wow is expected. So gone are the days of just checking a guest in and checking a guest out. It's now an entertainment factor. And gone are the days of just making a reservation. There has to be an entertainment factor associated with it. And that can be a struggle. I think when it's handled in a way that is more engineered to simplify, then I think we have a chance at that. So I think thinking about the regionality, Cass, let's get you off of mute. When you're asking, is regional flair mountain or rustic? You mean because of the fact that for you in Vail, there's such a different take or different interpretations of that? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different interpretations of that, and I am working on helping a lot of owners renovate right now. And seeing trends of what the guests want for style and decor too is like mountain contemporary. People don't really want the rustic look too much anymore. They want clean lines and very smooth finishes and things like that, that are more appealing than, big thick stone and that kind of stuff. It's definitely what people are, wanting to see as far as decor in the residences. So
I would completely agree with that. And I think Michelle in Big Sky, Michelle Frederick, she's encountering a similar situation. They have, they're undergoing a tremendous renovation right now of a very large section of their inventory. And with that, I'm sure comes a lot of conversation about how to select the right kinds of furnishings and fixtures that has a sense of place in Montana and not a sense of place in a ski resort. So I think with that, mountain contemporary, considering where you are in Lion's Head and what's going on in Lion's Head, I think there is sort of that new aesthetic that's coming into the region that is being expected right now. I don't know how authentic that is, but it certainly is what your guests are looking for and comparing you against when they're looking at you versus Solaris or your new buddy down the road. Oh gosh, not the Vail Cascade. Yes, and the Lion. I was thinking of the Vail Cascade. What did they become?
Lisa, yeah.
There. So, I mean, that's a whole new aesthetic that's happening, which is now, I guess, that is the new norm.
Yep.
And that's the wow. And I think it's funny in luxury, what we see a lot is people tend to articulate that guests are looking for a home away from home, and I argue that they're not. They're looking for quite a few steps ahead of what home might look like. So they're looking for a wow away from home. And that's a different ball game. I don't want to vacation in my home, or else I'd stay at home. And so there is a bit of a challenge to go a little bit bigger. Speaking of bigger, there are some hotel groups like Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, which in the peninsula, which are now starting to look at going smaller instead of bigger. So they've started to conclude that their sweet spot happens to be that sort of 200 room or less size property. And with that, they're able to personalize more. So hold on to that idea, because I think that gives you a lot to work with in the future as well. The idea of personalizing, and that you don't have to be big to be awesome. You can be small and awesome. Other mini trends we're seeing: digital itineraries. So this is becoming more of a thing, and this is very dependent on your technology. Also very dependent on the ability of your guest. But we're seeing more and more of this as becoming something that guests are looking for and expecting, particularly your groups. So I would envision ski groups looking for this, golf groups looking for this. So the technology's out there. There are a handful of organizations that are offering it. So I feel like the reimagined human touch is the big thing that we all have the most control over. There are so many things that are technology heavy that are happening right now whenever we're looking at trends. And of course, I think that we have to just acknowledge that good technology is going to get you a lot farther than no technology. Um, but the reimagined human touch as it stands in the luxury space really has to do with that idea of personalization, but not in a creepy, over personalized way. So a lot of the social media posting I've been doing lately has been more about inspiring thoughts and getting us thinking about what is legendary service, and where does legendary service come from, and how could we actually surprise a guest, and how could we be leveraging social media channels, for example, to surprise and delight guests. We, being smaller, in some of your cases, or being a more intimate kind of an organization, you have the ability to be able to reimagine the human touch with some of the things that already exist for you. You don't have to be big to be better. Technology is going to afford you the ability to be present and to be undistracted, but it's never going to replace the human element that you all bring. It's just a matter of how you're going to use it that is going to take you from being a 2-star property to a 4-star property. And that has to do with the culture of your organization. So I looked at some of the technology and how it is enabling our staff right now to be more present and to be more undistracted. And some of the things that are coming into our world really have to do with, of course, how we're leveraging more than anything the property management systems that we have. There are over 400 PMSs out there that you could choose from. And some of them are cloud-based, which really help, because then you can access them from any computer or any mobile device. And that increases usage, that increases access, that allows your staff to also be more mobile in how they're accessing it as well. What this also gives us is reimagined ability for touch points. And I think that's a big trend that we're seeing in luxury, is how we're then able to use property management systems to enable different ways that we can touch our guests. So think of things like using iPads in residences to order room service, or to check the weather, check the news. This is an in-room system that the Westin has been using now for a while. Other things that we're seeing are rooms getting Alexified, so to speak. What we're also seeing is rooms using, well, here's Alexa, but also using text bots and text chat to make reservations. So for the simpler tasks, I don't ever think a reservation sales staff member could ever be replaced. But if you could have a chat bot or text chat replacing a human being for the what's the weather going to be like whenever I come there in January, wouldn't that be wonderful? We've done a great job of being able to leverage those types of questions into perhaps a reservation inquiry, but we have the ability to do something more with that. Virtual reality has started to also become integrated into how we're selling accommodations, also to how we are uh, previewing product, previewing a vacation for guests. So we'll be seeing this more and more as a trend, particularly in the luxury space, because it's a big investment. And when you have a guest that's willing to spend $20,000 on a residence, they want to know exactly where the access is to the 11th hole or where the access is to ski in, ski out. So this virtual reality ability enables us. In the meantime, we still have the ability to take video with phones that can help us to at least bridge some of that gap in the meantime. Smart accommodations, what is that? It means that you can be controlling a lot of the things in residence, and we're already starting to see it in the luxury vacation rental home space. A lot of homeowners starting to build this technology into upgrades. So they're adding not just Alexa, they're adding the right switches, so the Wemo switches and those sorts of things, so that a entire condominium or an entire home can be completely controlled via smartphone. So there will come a day where your guests can actually check in, check out, open the front door, control the heat, control the lighting, control the bed comfort, control the alarm, control the time that they're going to wake up completely from their phone in their guest room. It's coming. We're not there yet, but you will be able, at least for now, to encourage your homeowners to start considering adopting some of this technology because guests are looking for it. They like it, they want it. The key is that it needs to be easy to use, of course. And I think the more consistent of a package you can convince your homeowners to be using, the better. So these are just some big trends that I'm seeing that I feel are affecting a lot of you right now. Um, maybe not yet, but I would say that you could start looking at them and start thinking about them. And when you start thinking about them, think about where to begin. My biggest recommendation to you, first of all, is to start leveraging your property management systems to capture guest information. I don't care if you're on IQware or if you're on HotelLogix or whatever you're on. You need to be using what you have or it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. So take the time to enter the information. So let's say, for example, you have a guest that says, this coffee is delicious. I love this coffee. Enter the type of coffee that they liked into your PMS, stock that coffee for future stays, and send them a link on how to buy that at home. That's the start of how you start to personalize a guest experience and how you start to get from just a stay to an experience, and how you start to get from okay to luxury. And when you get really good at that, then you start being able to say, okay, well, what else can we do? And how else can we do this? And what's another way that we can do this so that we can do this well all the time? And this isn't just a fluke, like, oh, I heard something and it just happened that way. The big organizations like the Ritz-Carltons of the world and the Four Seasons of the world, this is part of what they do. And so they have gotten very good at being able to use their technology to enable exceptional, memorable, and unique experiences through what they're doing. So I'll run through a potential scenario for you, and I'm going to use a technique that you could start thinking of. And it really has to do with how you might reconsider your brand. What is your brand? So what is your golf resort? What is your spa resort? What is your luxury resort or your property? So whatever you stand for, think of your brand standards, and then think of 5 unique things that you could do before, 5 unique things that you could do during, and 5 unique things that you could do after that speak to that brand. This is what Kimpton is doing, and they're doing it very well. So one of the 5 things that they do during a guest stay that's very unique to them, that only they do, is they have a manager reception every single day at a certain time of the day. It's sort of like a cocktail hour reception, and the general manager is mingling with guests while they're playing games in the lobby and they're just chilling out and interacting. That's one of the 5 things that they do during a guest stay that is part of their emotional brand standards of connecting. So for them, that without that, they don't have a brand. So if you take that idea and you say, okay, without what do we not have a brand? So without feeling like a home away from home, we don't have a brand. Then think of the 5 things before, the 5 things during, and the 5 things after that you could do to really set your brand apart from everybody else in your market. And this is the technique. So I'm throwing an example here for you. 5 things before that you could do. First, you could find a picture of the guest that's arriving. You could send a concierge letter and personally call to offer to make at least a dining reservation or maybe some other kind of dining reservation. You could make sure, that you're connected on link on social media channels if they participate in those. Send them a packing list. So a packing list in the style of your property, things that you recommend, as well as a link to your app if you have an app. And call or text them to remind the guests of arrival, parking, directions. And if they haven't yet made a dining reservation, one more call. So these are the 5 things that we do before every guest stay to make sure that they're set up to feel like they're at home. And then we have 5 things during. These are non-negotiable things that we always do during a guest stay to always make sure they feel like they're at home. We walk out from behind the desk to greet and welcome. We give kids fun kits, and this kit's loaded with junk, and they love it. We read through the paper itinerary and offer to make some more reservations where we see something hasn't been done yet. We escort them personally to the residence with a customized tour, fast and easy, of the residence as well. And when we arrive into the residence, that we have their favorite beverages and snacks stocked upon arrival for them, our compliments. And the 5 things we do after, and I'm making things up here, but we enter their preferences in the PMS because we assume we will see them again. If you have an 80% repeat guest rate, you better be doing this or you're doing it wrong. You send personalized postcards thanking the guest. It could be an e-postcard. It could be a video. I don't know. Give a personalized farewell gift, a monogrammed gift, for example, and invite them to exclusive future events that are being held. So they have to be exclusive or it's not authentic to them. So 5 things before, 5 things during, 5 things after. This is something that you could do to take it to the next level that really fits with luxury standards. You might want to also consider rewriting existing service standards and see where you go with that. And think about then what you do with some of the other things. If a guest loses a toy, how do you handle how that guest loses a toy? And do you enter that information into the PMS so that maybe you and your staff could have fun with it? Or even during a guest inquiry, if it's a reservation and you say, is there anything else I can assist you with? And the guest says, well, I've always wanted a Porsche 911. Do you just go, ha ha, very funny? Or do you actually take an extra step and maybe do a little bit of research and surprise him to no end and say, I actually did a little bit of digging and I found some people that are selling some Porsches in your area. Here's some links. What are you all about? So I say all of this just because I think sometimes we get so concerned with, oh, we have to be on trend. And technology enables you to not only be on trend, but it enables you to consider new possibilities. I think the other thing that technology enables you to do is do the things that you always want to do, but you don't feel like you have time to do. So take the moments that you have available to you and use them, because that's what is going to ultimately build your brand, not always chasing the next trend. I think my last word of advice for you really had to do with another piece of technology where I noticed this wasn't really done very well. This had to do with text chatting. And I'll be happy to share this with you, and you can take a look at this whenever you replay this green room later on. But I don't always think that text chatting is used effectively. And while it's a great trend to be able to give your guests multiple opportunities to access information or to engage with you, sometimes it's not used in the best way. So I caution you on knowing when it's time to get offline and to pick up the phone and have a conversation. This was a great example because I had already done all of the research that needed to be done. So this entire interaction was a complete waste of time and ended up becoming a no sale because of the fact that this guy ended up wasting my time in a text chat. I hope this gave you some inspiration, maybe things to think about as you start thinking about what trends mean for you and your organization, and how it's great to stay on trend or know what trends are out there. But ultimately, it has to do with remembering that you still want to be personalizing the experience and using the technology, using the trends out there to create an authentic, connected experience with your guests so that they're coming back again and again and again, and you're not consistently having to create new relationships with guests. Join me for next month's Green Room. It's Can I Book That? And other relationship breakers in sales. So if you have any sales professionals out there that need a little brush up and need to be reminded of some of the things that can kill a sale very quickly, come on over. It's going to be on July 25th at noon Mountain Time. So a little bit of a lunch and learn. Get your group together. Thank you very much. And we're also on Instagram now. So if all the other 3 social media channels weren't exciting enough for you, please join us on Instagram. Thanks, everybody. I'm glad that you were here today, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Erica.
Bye.